Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Now today I'm only going to be in the screen for about a minute here, just a brief introduction to the video that I'm currently about to show you. Now, I done this for a college project. It was maybe like a wee radio programme, hence why there is no video. I've decided that I liked it that much that, well, it's not amazing, it's not the best thing you're ever going to hear in your life, but it was good enough insight from both a neutral Celtic and Rangers fan point of view that I decided, you know what, I'm going to put it up on the channel because I feel like it's something that you would enjoy to hear if you're a fan of Scottish football, a fan of Celtic, or a fan of Rangers, whoever you are over here. Obviously more Celtic than Rangers fans. Then you might give this a listen, you might enjoy it, it might be a little something that you want to see more of in the future in the channel. Now, SharpDiv is involved in this. If you don't know, if you don't watch him, because you may be a Celtic fan, some guy, even though he's a Rangers fan, you know what, helped out with this. I'd like to thank him for helping out, and also my good friend David, who I've started the Talk Scottish Football podcast with over on our own channel, which if you haven't already, I urge you to go and check out and subscribe. The link to both channels will be in the top line of the description. Much support would be appreciated on both this video and over in the podcast channel. I'm sure Div as well would appreciate your support if you are perhaps a Rangers fan over watching this video. It's just discussing the Europa League so far for both Celtic and Rangers, the success of getting through to the last 32, previewing the rest of the Europa League and where Celtic and Rangers go from here, and then finally finishing off with a bit of fun as we have the 1 minute, minute to win it Scottish football quiz where David will see if he can get as close to a score of 10 as possible. But enough of me, I just want to give you an introduction of what this is. Also for the podcast, hopefully soon, video will be there. We're hopefully going to get a camera at some point, we just need the funding for it. So after that, we're ready to go. But if you do enjoy the video, you know what to do, hit like and subscribe, and I'll let you go and listen now. See you after. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the podcast. Today we're going to be discussing Celtic and Rangers in European football and how things have been this season and potentially how it will go moving forward. I'm joined today in the studio by my good friend David. David, nice for you to join me. How are you?
It's a pleasure to be here. Good, yeah, good.
So, as I've already mentioned, Celtic and Rangers have had a very successful campaign in European football so far, both progressing to the last 32 of the Europa League. How much of a surprise has the group stage been to you, David? Last season we've seen both teams progress through. They both went through the last 32. But this year there was something a bit more emphatic about it, I would say. How was it watching from a neutral perspective? How was things?
It was great. I think for the neutral Scottish football fan to see Scotland represented well was fantastic, especially after the disaster of the sort of Kelly result in the summer where everyone was kind of laughing at us, And as you said, last season they both showed signs in the group stages of doing really well. But I mean, the manner in which, especially Celtic going to Lazio, and Lazio home and away was an unbelievable result. Rangers beating Porto, who were Champions League quarter-finalists, I'm sure, last year. And it was almost as if the two sides kind of pushed each other. Celtic got a great result and then Rangers followed it up with a similar result, and to see them both through is just fantastic.
I know, speaking about the surprises of the big results at Lazio and such, I mean, at the start of the season, especially we look at Celtic here, Neil Lennon came in, they had had it all against them, kind of in the situation where a lot of Celtic fans were negative after Brendan Rodgers left, and then Celtic seen themselves get knocked out of the Champions League by Cluj. So to have such a successful group stage campaign, I mean, those results, Celtic's performances. Let's touch on it. We're going to be speaking to a Rangers fan later in the show. Let's talk about Celtic for a minute. Celtic's performances in the Europa League. What do you think was what was the kind of epicentre of it all?
Well, I think if you had to have one criticism of Brendan Rodgers' time at Celtic, it would be that he didn't quite crack European games, especially sort of the away games. Whereas Lennon's Celtic were a bit more pragmatic. He was willing to change his tactics, whereas Rodgers was always very much stuck in his way. We've
seen that in Lennon's first tenure as well. The results away from home might not be great. Mm-hmm. You got that Spartak Moscow result. Yeah. I can see where you're coming from if you keep going.
I mean, the thing of the Rennes game, the first game in the group, they went to Rennes, who I think they just beat PSG the week before that, and they got a point over there. Could have won the game, but it was like they were kind of a bit more, they sort of pressed high, they were a bit more, the tempo was high, they were willing to really have a go at teams, and these teams in Europe don't tend to like that. So you see in the group stages, Edouard had a great group stage, and at Parkhead, it was back to seeing the old Celtic in Europe, really up for it, using the crowd, going for it, whereas you think of some of the European games under Rodgers at Celtic Park, they were a bit more sort of slow, things didn't quite move. You think of like Valencia last year, it was a bit kind of pedestrian at times, whereas think of the Lazio game at Parkhead, Celtic just went for it. There were blood and thunder stuff. It was great.
And you think of Lazio just now, look at the form that Lazio are in. Lazio have been incredible. They're putting in a title challenging season right now over in Serie A, up there with the likes of Juventus and Inter Milan. It really puts into perspective how big, how massive especially a away win, was for Celtic against Lazio.
Oh, magic. And I think, it's for a lot of people, especially sort of English football fans, will look at the game up here and just sort of dismiss it. But you can't dismiss how big that result is. I mean, you can beat any team once. Celtic beat Barcelona, miracle result. It's probably never going to happen again. But to beat Lazio at home and then to go over there to Rome and do it there was just amazing. And the game in Rome, it wasn't like it was a fluke result. If Celtic had drawn that game, they probably would have kicked themselves because they had chances in that game to win it.
I was there myself. I was in the stadium, and honestly, I've never been in such an atmosphere in my life. And it really, I think Neil Lennon deserves a lot of credit for bringing, like they always say, Neil Lennon brings the thunder. And certainly this year in the Europa League, no one would, at the start of the group, this is the thing, you look back at the start of the group, I said to myself, do you know what, second place, let's go for it. We're probably not going to get the best results, but the way we perform the pitch, if we did get a draw that day, do you know what, I was expecting the whistle to go at the 90th minute and go, right, that's it, full time.
And that would have been a great result.
That would have been a great result, but the cherry in the cake in Cham, putting it in the back of the net. I mean, comparing to last season in the Europa League group stage for Celtic, there wasn't too much more we could do. We'd done what we had to do last year. We got through the last 32, and hopefully we now move further than what we did last season when we were knocked out from Valencia. But Neil Lennon, a great deal of credit to him. I mean, it's big for not just Celtic, not just Rangers and their side as well, for Scottish football. I mean, you're the neutral here. Scottish football. What do you think this? Do you think this is a good? I mean, we saw Kilmarnock and the disaster they had at the start of this season. Do you think the success of Celtic and Rangers this season can drive other Scottish teams on in the coming years, especially with the new competition coming in, the third competition?
Yeah,
do you think Scottish teams have got a little to build on here?
Yeah, and not just club teams. I think for the national team it's good as well. If you've got Celtic are full of lots of Scottish players there. Ryan Jack for Rangers has been great this year. Those boys are playing in Europe now. Is going to help them for the national team as well. And obviously the coefficient's been great for the coefficient points as well. I mean, the chances are if things do go well, they could have both of them in Champions League qualifiers next year, which would be absolutely fantastic. When you think over the past maybe 10 years, maybe a bit less than that, Scottish teams in Europe, Celtic have struggled. They haven't really, whereas now they're both competing. And now if you can beat Lazio home and away, you look at the rest of the teams in that knockout stage, I mean, there's not many better than Lazio in there, I wouldn't have said. So they've got every chance to do really, really well. Lazio
have got to be one of the top teams, judging on current form in the competition. Now they're out.
Yeah.
And that is, a magnificent achievement to Neil Lennon and Celtic. Quickly moving on to Rangers. We spoke about Celtic quite a bit here, and we're going to be speaking to YouTuber SharpDiv in a couple of moments. But your opinion on Rangers, do you think, I mean, they went in and, to me, when the draw was made, they were given, I think, what looked on paper the toughest possible draw. I did not expect them to go through, and once again, credit to the manager, Steven Gerrard. But Rangers, your thoughts? I mean, that is sensational stuff there.
Yeah, Rangers have been great to watch in Europe, especially Ibrox. They just look like they can beat anyone. I mean, like the way they play, their midfield's so strong. Morelos up front. I mean, he's absolutely built for European football. That continental defenders don't like getting. They don't like the rough and tumble of the forward players, especially like Morelos. I mean, I think if you look at the game away in Feyenoord, the 2 goals he scored were just unbelievable. And Ibrox, they used the crowd. The team just rallied behind it. Like Ryan Jack was just inspired when I saw him in Europe for Rangers. And yeah, credit to Steven Gerrard because since he came in at the start of last season, there's no denying there has been an improvement constantly. It seems like week on week they get better, and I really fancy them to do well as well. I mean, there's no reason why they can't look at the round of 32 in the Europa League and think they can get through. I mean, both old firm teams have got you'd say winnable ties, especially when you compare it to who they've already beaten. So yeah, Rangers have got to be absolutely delighted with what they're doing, and it's great to see both teams competing in Europe and not just relying on Celtic in ridiculous qualifiers every summer.
Well, you've said it spot on there. What we're going to do now is we're going to cross over, speaking of Rangers just there, we're going to cross over to YouTuber and Rangers fan SharpDiv, who is going to give us his opinion on some of the key moments of the Europa League group stage Rangers had this season.
I've actually been really impressed and happy as a Rangers fan with the progress that I believe Rangers have made in the Europa League since last year. Because last year we obviously failed at the last hurdle, whereas this year we've showed that we've been resolute, we have been organised, and we've had the quality to beat and draw with some of the kind of best opposition really in the tournament, because the people in our group, they were all champions in their own right. Domestically, some of the best teams within their division and within their country. So that has just kind of been the icing on the top of the cake for me as a Rangers fan, because going into the tournament, I think a lot of people wrote Rangers off, and the way we've performed, we probably deserved to win the group. Obviously, we fell short just, but still managed to get qualification. Last year, there certainly was instances that gave evidence for this year that Rangers were going to do really well, because the way that Gerrard sets up in Europe especially, it just seems to suit our style so good. We have a workman-like kind of midfield, three midfielders in Kamara, Davis and Jack that all know their roles, and there's nothing spectacular about them, but they just kind of get the job done. And that has served us better this year than it has last year. So the warning and the worry for me was, will Rangers have a good tournament again but fall at the last hurdle? So this year it's been the opposite, and we've managed to kind of overcome that. So it's not really been a shock, because the evidence was there last season. It was just whether they could build on that, and I think the experience obviously played a part in that. I believe that the key factor to qualifying for the round of 32 this year is the experience from last year. Rangers played really well in the tournament last year, and they've carried that on to this year, but they've learned the lessons and they've built on it. They've improved in key areas, and they've turned some of the draws into wins, which ultimately has got Rangers into the last 32. There is an argument that the participation within the Europa League will have a negative result on the performances within Europe, but judging on the evidence so far, Rangers have done very well to bounce back after these games and pick up points in spectacular fashion. Potentially, the run of fixtures has benefited Rangers, because I know that a lot of the games have been home games. However, I also believe that playing a lot of games suits this Steven Gerrard Rangers side, and we have seen that after the winter break, where this team were given 2 weeks off. They've came back and they've not been able to hit the heights as before. Whereas before, it was a game every 3 or 4 days and Rangers were playing to a really high level. So personally, I don't fear it too much, but there of course is an argument that fatigue and injuries could pile up and it could impact us domestically. Originally, when the draw was made, I was really happy with getting Braga. If you go off of the Europa League campaign, they have been really good. They managed to win the group that had Wolves in it, and I think anybody who watches football and has paid attention to the English football league, then they've seen how good of a side Wolves are. So in that aspect, they're going to be a massive challenge for Rangers in the round of 32. However, domestically, there is teams that Rangers have played within their division, Porto being one of them, that are better than them, that have better personnel than them, that are higher than them in the league, and Rangers have handled them pretty comfortably. So I think that it will be a hard game, but I don't see why Rangers can't get through. I personally think that Rangers could get far in this competition, but it comes down to a lot of luck, and it comes down to holding your bottle basically in these big games. Braga are going to be stiff opposition for sure. We cannot overlook Braga. We need to give them the respect they deserve, and that in itself will be a very difficult tie to overcome. But if you do overcome that and you get yourself into the last 16, it is really just the luck of the draw. There is going to be some exceptional sides in the Europa League last 16 draw for sure. I think Inter Milan will be one of them. So it just depends on your draw. Rangers will look to get a team in the last 16 if they get through the round of 32 and just see where it goes for there. It needs to be taken game by game, but there's no reason why Rangers can't go far in this competition, judging that they get elements of luck and they perform in big games.
that was David there speaking on Rangers campaign. But now we go on. You briefly touched on it, David, yourself. The last 32 draw has been made. That's what we've got to look forward to now. Celtic heading to Copenhagen and Rangers taking on Braga. You've already said yourself, winnable ties when you look at who they've already played this season. Celtic, first of all, do you see them going through? Like, give me your thoughts. The last 32 for them.
I can see both of them going through. I'd expect both of them to go through, which is mental, because if you'd have said to me in the summer what were the chances of Celtic and Rangers both reaching the last 16 in the Europa League, I'd have probably laughed at you. It would
have been a decent bet, that.
Yeah, the odds have been high, like I tell you. But no, I really fancy them both to go through. It was when that draw was made, I looked at the teams that were in it and I said, no matter who Celtic and Rangers get, I think they've got a chance. I actually really wanted them to get Manchester United and Arsenal.
I think the Scottish teams do a great job at turning up against English teams.
And you look at for years we've heard about how great the league is down south, how it's the best league in the world, etc. You look at Arsenal this season and Manchester United. Are you telling me a packed Celtic Park, a packed Ibrox, they're coming there a European night against a blood and thunder Old Firm side that are bang up for it? They're going to have a walk in the park, not a hope.
Any midfielder from both Celtic or Rangers would have players like Andreas Pereira, who are playing consistently Europa League for Man United, for dinner. You know,
even if you look at who Manchester United's best midfielder has been this year, you'd say it's Scott McTominay. Mm-hmm. Now Callum McGregor and Ryan Jack are both keeping him out of the Scotland team.
Exactly.
So, you know, I really think Celtic and Rangers have got to be full of confidence no matter who they play.
I mean, Rangers could have had some right big draws. I mean, they had the likes of Inter Milan in there, they could have drawn them, so they did avoid, you know, some big teams that probably would have gave them a very small chance of going through. They'll be very happy with a Braga draw, as you would be. I mean, heading over to Portugal, I mean, they've already been. They showed what they could do against Porto, and Porto are a bigger and better team.
And the way they're set up, Rangers, is they're kind of designed for away European football. I mean, they've got, you know, the experience they've got in the field with the likes of Arfield and Davis. They've been there and done it, but they've also got the likes of Aribo and Kamara, sort of younger, more talented players. And Morelos is just, he's built for European football. He's just, and you know, the one thing for Rangers is the more he does well in Europe, the more clubs are going to be interested in him. But
it's the same in both sides, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Same with Edouard as well. Yeah,
it's the same in both sides. But Morelos is really, you know, he's a player who very quickly for me has become someone who I wouldn't have bothered too much if I was a manager myself to someone in European football. He's one of the top men, one of the top strikers in the continent. But quickly before we move on to the end segment of the show, Celtic and Rangers potentially, as we spoke about, can be heading to the last 16. It would be madness if they drew each other. I mean, it's possible. Let's hope not, for the sake of my sanity. But looking forward, right? How is this going to affect the title race between Celtic and Rangers? Because right now it is, as we know, Celtic top of the league by 2 points. Rangers game in hand. Rangers could be top by the next couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. Does this Europa League draw or Europa League potential last 16 affect any team greater than the other, or do you think the priority is domestic football?
Oh, listen, the priority is 100% the league title. Celtic need to win the 9 in a row because they're determined to go for the 10. Rangers are determined to break the 10 and get their 55. That is 100% a big aim for both. However, if there was a scenario where one goes out in the next round, the other doesn't, and then, you know, a few injuries through the squad stretched, who knows? Ultimately, I don't think it's going to have too big of an impact, because I ultimately do think that Celtic and Rangers are so much better than the other 10 teams in the SPL that they can afford to make changes on Saturday and still, you know, be good enough. But this everyone always says you play too many games, you end up tired. You're not as good. I mean, I think that's rubbish. You know, if you're playing lots of games, it shows you're successful, especially if you're winning. I mean, you can't. Winning's a habit, and if you're in that on a European stage, it's going to transfer over to league and vice versa. So you know, the more football, the more you're winning, the better. I don't see it having a negative effect on either, to be honest.
I can agree with all you. I think at the end of the day, both teams have a squad full of talent, and we see in the January window just now, we see the likes of Celtic going out and signing Patrick Klimala. They're talking about Ismaila Soro. They do want to add depth to make sure they have the quality to go to the finish line, but I don't think Neil Lennon's going to take the back burner off any of the competitions. No, and I think both teams, there has been conversation of anyone becoming tired. Look, Rangers are determined to stop 9, Celtic are determined to get 9. It's going to go right down to the wire,
absolutely.
But I don't think it's going to affect it much.
No.
Right, okay then, that means we're heading on to the end segment. For the first episode, I'm going to quickly explain what we've got going here, because it's obviously fresh and a new show. So I'm going to, every week, every time I have someone on, I'm going to be doing this wee 10-question quiz. You have 1 minute to answer 10 questions. You can pass on a question and come back to it at the end. And by the end of the series of podcasts, the winner can get a pint and spoons or something. We don't know. We'll come up with an idea. So, David, you are the first contestant. 10 questions based on Scottish football. I don't expect you to get, 9 or 10 or whatever, because I think every week we're going to make the difficulty equal for everyone. So
I've got to get 5 at least. That's what I'm going for. At least 5.
We've got to get the timer up on the computer very quickly, and we're going to get things going. So when it hits the mark of 11:41, we will get going. Are you ready, David?
Yeah. What a way to motivate someone. A pint and spoons.
A pint and spoons. So here we go. A minute to answer the questions. Pass, and we'll come back to it at the end. Your questions start now. Which season did Dunfermline last compete in European football?
2007, 2008.
Correct. Gordon Strachan has managed how many clubs in Scotland?
4.
We'll come back to it at the end. Bar Celtic and Rangers, who has the biggest stadium in the top flight?
Hearts.
We'll come back to it at the end. Who was the last team to win a domestic trophy that wasn't at Hampden?
St Johnstone.
Correct. Who scored 2 goals in the 1972 European Cup Winners' Cup final?
I've not got a clue.
We'll come back to that one at the end. Besides Celtic and Rangers, who's the most expensive player to leave a Scottish club?
Craig Gordon.
Correct. Who got the most assists in the Scottish Premiership last season?
Cal McGregor.
We'll come back to the end. Who scored the only goal in the 2018 League Cup final?
Tom Rogic.
We'll come back to the end. Who's the only player to play in the Old Firm Merseyside in El Clasico derby?
Old Firm Merseyside El Clasico. Oh my goodness gracious me. Tommy Gravison.
Correct. And finally, I've started, so I'll finish. As of 2020, where will Queen's Park play their home matches?
Lesser Hampden.
Correct. So, you got a total score there of, hold on, we'll make sure we get it right here. I think you got 5. You got 5. You got a 5 correct answers. Do you know what? It's not bad. It's a good marker for the first episode. We'll quickly go through the answers for those listening and for your sanity.
Ask me the questions again. What another
right, okay, so which season did Dunfermline last compete in European football? You got it correct with 2007 and 8. And I hope you get that correct. Gordon Strachan has managed how many clubs in Scotland?
You
said 4.
3.
Correct answer's 1.
Celtic
is the only club he's managed in Scotland.
You know what? I panicked.
Surprised me as well.
Yeah.
Bar Celtic and Rangers, who is the biggest stadium in the top flight?
So it's not Hearts. Is it Pittodrie? No?
It's Pittodrie.
I thought after the new stand at Tynecastle.
Honestly, I thought it was Easter Road when I was looking it up. Who was the last team to win a domestic trophy? Not Hampden. You got it correct. St Johnstone won the Scottish Cup in 2014. Right. Who scored 2 goals in the 1972 European Cup Winners' Cup final?
That's
when Rangers won the European Cup Winners' Cup.
I don't know. I'm gonna get so much stick for not knowing that.
It's Willie Johnson. Willie Johnson was the man who got 2 goals.
I'm not even gonna pretend that I would know.
You got the Craig Gordon answer correct.
Yeah.
Leaving Hearts for
9 million.
9 million.
Yeah.
That was it. Who got the most assists in the Scottish Premiership?
I said Cal McGregor. So season. Was it a Celtic player?
It was not a Celtic player.
Wow. Oh, is it like a really obscure?
No, it's not obscure at all.
It's a Rangers player.
It's a Rangers player. It's a Rangers player. When they stopped banging on about it, I don't know how you can't remember.
Oh my goodness gracious me! Most assists in Scottish Premiership last season. I can't remember.
James Taverner.
Oh, of course he did.
That was it. Who scored the only goal in the 2018 League Cup final? Right. You said Rogic.
Was it Celtic Aberdeen that final?
It was Celtic Aberdeen. That's correct. It finished 1-0.
Well, if it was the only goal, I'd imagine it finished 1-0. Who scored that then? I don't know.
Ryan Christie.
Was it Ryan Christie?
You got the Thomas Gravison answer correct. He's the only player to score in the Old Firm Merseyside and the El Clasico derbies. And finally, you got the Lesser Hampden answer correct. Queen's Park will be leaving Hampden Park after this season. And that is it. That is you. 5 out of 10. Do you know what? It's not a bad way to start. Could have been worse.
I'm pretty disappointed.
You got a couple of answers. You saved yourself at the end with the 2 correct answers. It could have been worse.
Thing is, I almost got the Dunfermline question wrong too, which would have been a disaster.
That would have been a disaster. But thank you very much for coming on, David. I appreciate it. You've been a top guest, and hopefully we'll have you back on sometime to improve on your score.
Yeah.
If you would like to keep listening, hopefully an episode 2 will be out after the last 32, where we'll see if Celtic and Rangers move on to the last 16 of Europa League. So thank you for listening, and I'll see you all next time.